All right, today we're going to jump into a short but incredibly powerful story from the Gospel of Matthew. It's all about this encounter on a dusty road that honestly tells us so much about persistence, compassion, and what it really means to change. Let's get right into it.
So this question really gets to the core of what we're about to see. It's a setup for this amazing clash between a crowd that just wants everyone to fall in line and two guys who are so desperate for a change, they're willing to shout down everyone to get it. Okay, so let's set the scene. You gotta picture this. Jesus and his disciples, they're walking out of the town of Jericho. And this is not some quiet little exit, no way. There is a massive, noisy crowd just swarming around them. You can almost feel the energy, right? This whole procession is moving with a real sense of purpose. And right here, on the edge of all that action, is where we meet our main characters. Now pay attention to where they are, beside the road. They're not in the parade, they're on the sidelines, literally on the margins of society, watching this major event pass them by. That is, until they decide they're not going to be spectators anymore. And then, boom, a shout just slices through all that crowd noise. "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us." This is such a direct, desperate plea. And by calling him Son of David, they're not just being polite. That's a huge deal. They're basically saying, "You're the one we've been waiting for, the Messiah." They see their one shot, and they just go for it.
Now, you'd think a cry for help like that would get some sympathy, wouldn't you? Well, that's not what happens at all. The first thing that stands in their way isn't their blindness. It's the actual people surrounding Jesus.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The crowd tries to shut them down. Be quiet, they say. They're trying to push them right back to the margins where they feel they belong. But that pressure, it has the exact opposite effect. It just lights a fire under them. They absolutely refuse to be ignored. So what do? They shout again. And this time, it's even louder. This second shout is the real turning point of the whole story. It's this incredible act of defiant faith that just becomes impossible to ignore. It literally changes the direction of everything. And just like that second, louder cry changes everything. Suddenly, this whole huge, moving procession just grinds to a halt, all because of two voices from the side of the road. So the crucial thing here is that Jesus hears them. He doesn't just hear their words. You get the sense he hears their persistence. He stops everything, the whole show, and calls out for them, pulling them from the very edge of the crowd right into the center of the story. And then Jesus asks this simple but incredibly powerful question. Think about this. He doesn't just assume what they need. Instead, he gives them the dignity of asking for it themselves, empowering them to actually say what they want. It's a question that honors them as people, not just as a problem to be solved. And their answer is just as clear and powerful as their first shout. There's no hesitation. They know exactly what they want. "Lord, we want to see." It's the deepest desire of their hearts, and for the first time, it's being heard. So this brings us right to the climax. Their persistence paid off, they've spoken their deepest desire, and now comes the moment of incredible, life-altering change. And it all unfolds in 4 really clear steps. First, it starts with a feeling, compassion. Jesus feels pity for them. That feeling then leads to an action, a healing touch, which brings an immediate result. They can see. And all of that culminates in a brand new purpose. They start to follow. And the text makes it so clear how fast this happens. It's not a gradual recovery. There's no waiting period. In an instant, in a flash, their whole world is flipped from total darkness to light. It's just incredible. So, what is the very first thing they do with this brand new gift of sight? They follow. Their physical healing immediately leads to a new direction for their lives. They leave that spot on the side of the road for good and join the journey. So what's the big takeaway from all of us? Well, the story really frames it as a lesson about faith. It was their persistent, shouted faith that opened the door for mercy to step in. And that mercy, it didn't just fix their eyes. It made everything in their lives new. And that leaves us with this one last thing to chew on. The story doesn't just end with a miracle. It ends with them following. So it makes you wonder, right? What really is the connection between seeing the world in a completely new way and completely changing the path you're on? That's a good question to think about.